Do you know who was driving that car, that Tesla? You don't have to tell me, but do you know the identity?
Yeah, as far as it going to the final, that what we believe is the final parking spot where it was towed from, yes.
New shocking details have just surfaced about the murder of David's girlfriend, Celeste. A private investigator has dropped bombshells, and word is she was killed right inside David's home. But that's just the beginning. What he revealed next will send chills down your spine. Let's break it down. The discovery that shocked the internet. When workers at a Hollywood impound lot detected an overwhelming, putrid smell emanating from an abandoned Tesla on September 8, 2025, they had no idea they were about to uncover one of the most disturbing celebrity-adjacent mysteries of the year. The vehicle had been sitting in the lot for just 3 days after being towed from a street near the Hollywood Hills on September 5th, accumulating parking tickets that would ultimately lead to its impoundment.
This all started on September 8th when LAPD officers were called to a tow yard on Mansfield Avenue in Hollywood after workers noticed this foul odor coming from a Tesla that had been sitting there. That car was registered to 20-year-old singer David, real name David Anthony Burke, the Houston-born artist behind the hit Romantic Homicide. That Tesla had been abandoned near the Hollywood Hills rental property, towed away, and was just sitting there. And when officers opened the front trunk, they found something horrific. Human remains wrapped in plastic.
The body was severely decomposed, wrapped in plastic packaging, suggesting that death had occurred weeks, possibly even months, before discovery. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office was unable to determine a cause of death right away, deferring their ruling while they waited for extensive forensic testing, including toxicology reports that could take months to complete given the advanced state of decomposition. But there were identifying markers that would soon break this case wide open. The deceased was wearing a black top, black pants, a gold necklace, and a gold ring. And most distinctively, most hauntingly, there was a tattoo on the right index finger, a simple word that would become central to this entire investigation. Shh.
And a few days later, it was confirmed that that body belonged to 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a teen runaway who had been missing from Lake Elsinore since April of 2024. Her remains were decomposed, suggesting that she had been in that car for weeks.
The Tesla itself was registered to a 20-year-old singer who had skyrocketed to fame through TikTok and viral hits, a young artist known professionally as David, whose real name is David Anthony Burke. Born in Queens, New York, and raised in Houston, Texas, David had built his career from creating Fortnite montage videos on YouTube, eventually producing his own music to avoid copyright issues. His breakthrough single, Romantic Homicide, had propelled him into the mainstream spotlight, securing him a deal with Interscope Records and millions upon millions of streams across platforms. The discovery sent investigators scrambling and the internet into absolute overdrive. Born to El Salvadoran immigrant parents, Celeste had a troubling history of running away from home, with police records showing she was reported missing at least 3 times in 2024 alone. But what truly ignited the firestorm of speculation was a chilling detail that couldn't be ignored. Celeste Rivas had that shh tattoo on her right index finger, and so did David.
And fans have pointed out that both she and David had that same small shh tattoo on their fingers. And if that wasn't eerie enough, David has this unreleased song with Celeste in the title that's been reported.
The matching ink became the focal point of countless social media posts, with users connecting dots, sharing screenshots from Discord chats, analyzing old photos, and suggesting that the two had been in contact, perhaps even in some kind of relationship. The private investigator enters the scene. As the LAPD treated this as an open death investigation, rather than an outright homicide case, emphasizing that no evidence of foul play had been immediately confirmed, the investigation took a dramatic turn that would reveal crucial new information about what really happened in the weeks and months leading up to the discovery.
And to be clear, since then, there's been no suspects that have been named, no persons of interest, no arrests. David has canceled his tour. He's moved out of that mansion. He has transferred properties that he owned in Texas to his mother. The whole thing has been a lot of unanswered questions.
On September 17, 2025, 9 days after the body was found, LAPD officers executed a search warrant at the Hollywood Hills mansion, where David had been renting for approximately $20,000 per month, a property valued between $3.6 and $4 million. The raid was extensive and methodical. Officers seized a digital video recorder from the property's surveillance system and conducted forensic tests, specifically looking for blood evidence.
a home that was owned by a man named Malden Trifonich. And officers reportedly collected electronics, computers. They searched the drains for traces of blood or tissue. At least that's the reporting from TMZ. Can't officially confirm that. But this homeowner had said that after he'd heard almost nothing from the LAPD about what they found, he was frustrated.
The property owner, Mladen Trifunovic, found himself in an incredibly frustrating position. After the police raid, he claims he received almost no communication from the LAPD about what they'd found, what they'd taken, or what connections, if any, his property might have to this tragic case.
And that is when he made his move and hired his own PI. He told TMZ and the Daily Mail that his family wanted answers about what might have happened in or around this home.
So Trifunovic made a bold decision. He hired his own private investigator, a seasoned professional named Steve Fisher, to conduct a parallel probe into the case.
I'm joined by private investigator Steve Fisher, who was hired by David's former landlord. Really appreciate you taking the time here to talk about this. First off, Steve, how were you hired? How were you retained in this matter?
Fisher's involvement would prove to be absolutely pivotal. On October 18th, 2025, reports emerged detailing surveillance footage that Fisher had obtained from neighboring properties in the Hollywood Hills area. This footage captured something absolutely crucial to understanding the timeline of events: the last known movement of the Tesla on July 29th.
We now have a much better understanding of when that Tesla arrived at that final parking spot. I'll tell you, I do have surveillance from different houses in the neighborhood showing the Tesla being moved. So things like that, and I'm not even saying that LAPD didn't have that. I'm sure they did, but we wanted to make sure. And we did some work on the up-resing the footage to find out who was driving the vehicle.
The surveillance video shows the Tesla being driven close to a camera, with the driver visible despite some motion blur. While Fisher has identified the driver internally, he has deliberately withheld the name publicly due to the sensitivity of the ongoing LAPD case.
Do you know who was driving that car, that Tesla? You don't have to tell me, but do you know the identity?
Yeah, as far as it going to the final, that what we believe is the final parking spot where it was towed from, yes.
And that information's been communicated to law enforcement.
The dark truth begins to emerge. As Fisher's investigation deepened, he began to piece together a timeline that was far more disturbing than anyone had initially imagined. The Tesla, he discovered, had been parked and abandoned in late July, just before David embarked on his now canceled Withered World tour that was scheduled to begin on August 5th, 2025.
But I will say, when it was moved to that position, it was already like that. So that car had not been used in a very long time. It was super dirty, caked on dirt. I'll tell you, this was in late July.
The vehicle had accumulated caked on dirt that indicated prolonged disuse, sitting untouched for weeks until those parking tickets led to its eventual towing. But Fisher's most shocking revelation came when he shared his theory about when and where Celeste actually died.
And stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, the very beginning of the year, that car, something happens, and that car's doesn't show up anymore. It's not used. It seems to disappear. And then that red Tesla learned, which we didn't know until the search warrant was served, that there's a red Tesla in the garage.
Based on physical evidence he'd collected, Fisher believes that Celeste's death occurred much earlier than the July discovery, possibly as far back as January or February 2025, and that it happened at a different rental property David had occupied, located about 1 mile down the same street in the Hollywood Hills.
Investigations are always moving, and right now I tend to believe it happened a while ago, a long time ago, and I think January, February, things change. I mean, you can see it in the photos and everything. And
Fisher's investigation led him to describe what he found as scary, sadistic stuff, suggesting that there may have been elaborate, but ultimately failed plans to dispose of Celeste's body in a more permanent manner. Fisher has theorized that Celeste's death might have been a tragic drug overdose that was then concealed to avoid scandal. Importantly, Fisher clarifies that he has no direct evidence of foul play or David's direct involvement in the death itself, focusing instead on the concealment aspect.
Listen, a crime 100% happened here. At minimum, it's the concealment of a body, right? So we know somebody did that. Hopefully it's not, a mutilation. Hopefully those initial reports were wrong about her being dismembered.
The fallout has been catastrophic for David's career. His entire world tour was canceled shortly after the body's discovery. All album promotions were halted, and lucrative brand partnerships with companies like Hollister and Crocs were terminated. David has retained high-profile defense attorney Blair Burke and has reportedly been cooperating with investigators, though he has remained completely silent publicly. On September 18th and September 22nd, 2025, David transferred ownership of 2 Houston area properties to his mother, moves that coincided with both the LAPD's raid and a swatting incident at one of the Texas homes. As of October 19, 2025, the case remains officially open. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office has deferred the cause of death, still awaiting toxicology results. No suspects have been named, no arrests have been made, and the cloud of suspicion continues to hang heavily over this tragic case. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.